All right, so this one's going to be a really quick video. It says that I can use this straight out of the container, so I guess no mixing is involved. So this is the Wise one. This is a bisque-fired piece. I'm so glad he survived, as well as his companion piece. So the studio that I go to puts all of the pieces on stilts so that the glaze, if you get it underneath the bottom, I understand that the glaze, once it heats up, can end up sticking to the kiln shelf. So she puts them up on stilts, except for the very, very heavy pieces. The stilts, I think, are a little bit flimsy, so you have to put sort of a bunch of them up under the piece, and if she feels that it won't be supported, then she'll ask you to make sure that you don't put glaze on the bottom of your piece. Now, this she fired, I think, on stilts, and there's not much to cover here, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, just because I prefer to keep her from having to go through the extra steps of stilting everything. So what I'm doing is applying this liberally to the bottom, just to make sure that the glaze does not end up on this part that's resting on the shelf and giving her problems. Now, she also normally puts a clear coat of glaze over the pieces going into her kiln. She doesn't do that with mine because I've asked her not to, because I'm not a fan of the glossy glazes on my pieces. I prefer matte. So she just goes ahead and fires them with whatever glaze I put them with, and I can always, if the glaze comes out great, then everything is fine. If not, I come home and I paint. So again, this product is called Wax Resist, and I guess it's emulsified wax, so that you, oops, that ran, so that you can brush it on to the areas that you don't want glaze to touch. And then it says to let it sit out and dry for a couple of minutes, and then you get to glazing. So I'm gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna probably go in and put a second coat, just as a safety precaution. And I'm trying to make sure not to let the bristles of the brush go up onto the top area, because I definitely want that to be glazed. I have a towel over here, and I've lost my towel, and I need to find it, because I need to rest this up on a towel to dry. All right, so I have brushed on the Wax Resist. I'm trying to wipe the brush off. So I'm going to stop this video for now, and I'll just join it to the next video, the glazing video, when I come back. So there, I'm just going to sit that on its side. Sorry guys, and let it dry. I'll be back. So you watched me put Wax Resist on the bottom of this piece. I used this brush, and I can still feel the slickness of the wax on here, so I'm going to have to make this a dedicated brush. So I'm trying to put some sort of mark on it so that I can know. Yeah, so I'm scratching a W into this brush so that I can use it for that always. Just like I have a bisque, not a bisque, but a slick stick brush as well. So what I'm going to be doing is applying glaze, and I'm going to take my time because I want even coverage. But what I'm going to have to decide later down the road is if it's worth the labor of me glazing pieces when there's a strong chance that if it doesn't come out right, I have to repaint them. But I don't know, because the studio can glaze it with the clear coat that is going to vitrify the clay. So I'll have the strength that I need, and I can just make that my process, that I let them go ahead and put it through the fire again, but instead I would just bring it home to paint it, and that would just be my process. But I don't know if that's necessarily what I want. I need my apron. I'm about to get real messy with this glaze. So hold on one second, guys. All right, I'm back. I've got my food cooking, my son and my cat are taking a nap. So this is all me time right now. So this is one glaze that I've opened just so it can be ready But what I'm going to do is paint the lightest parts first. And the beard is going to be the lightest part. I'm using a white glaze, and I'm also using something called satin patina that looks like a sort of blue-green glaze. That's how it's supposed to come out. Again, that could be totally different from what's actually going to happen once it's fired. We'll just see, you know. Put this light over here so I can see what I'm doing. And I just want to sit for a minute and make sure I know where I'm going in with the white. And it seems that the rule of thumb is to make sure to put on 3 coats. So that is definitely what I'm going to do. I'm generous with my application. The studio owner said that she is too. So, you know, I guess you decide how generous you want to be with your applications. But I like to make sure to get into the crevices, the nooks and crannies. And this brush is just stiff enough to do that with no problem for me. And it's such a pleasure being able to glaze this at home instead of putting that pressure on myself that I was doing and trying to glaze it in the studio. Then I'd be watching the clock because I know Katie has, you know, her set times, her hours of operation, and I always underestimate how long something is going to take. So I'd look up and, you know, now it's like time to go, and now I'm rushing because I don't want to transport the pieces once again because greenware is so, I mean, not bisqueware, well, at least at the last studio was still, it seemed to be just as fragile as greenware. With Katie, I think her firing technique or her temperatures, I don't know what it is, but her pieces feel much stronger as bisqueware, so I don't have the same level of apprehension that I used to have. But I still don't want to keep transporting stuff because I drive a jalopy and it doesn't really have any shock, so every bump is like you just, you know, somersaulted over Mount Kilimanjaro, and my pieces can break in transportation during transport, so I don't like that. So now I get to come home and just take my time and make sure that everything is covered the way that I need it to be. And if the glaze doesn't come out right, by that time the clay is vitrified, it is strong, it is now a ceramic piece, and I can just bring it home and repaint it, no problemo. And I've got just the Ziploc bags that I keep clay in. I've got this sitting on a Ziploc bag, just so it doesn't get all over my turntable, even though this turntable really needs a deep cleaning. I don't know if I'll get to that today, but I will get to it. I was concerned because this is white, that it would be so white I would not be able to see where I applied it, but it's turning everything like a really, really, really deep off-white so that I can see it easily, and that's good, because I was concerned about that. All right, so I am going to let this sit for a few minutes, let that glaze soak all the way in, and then I'm going to come back and add a second coat, repeat the process for the third coat. And I've got to stitch all these videos together so that I don't have a bunch of 5-minute clips on YouTube. That's why they make shorts. But I don't know nothing about shorts, I just know they exist. I don't know how to create them on YouTube, so I'm just doing this. All right, so I'll be back in a few. Peace. All right, I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes and then I'll come back and put on the last coat of the white. I'm gonna overlay it with some of the satin patina I was telling you about. This is the color. And then the rest of it, I'm gonna choose one of the dark brown colors and I'll share that with you when I make the decision. And we're done for this part. I like to twirl the brush to make sure I get as much paint off of it as possible and that I really am getting that glaze into the grooves. And I find that helps. Okay. Actually, yeah, no, I gotta let it dry. I was gonna go ahead and start adding in the patina now so there could be a little more of a blend. I don't know if that's even possible. I'm gonna go ahead and lay on one coat. Let's see what happens. Because again, we've got bonding boss and or slick stick. So one way or another, this is going to be exactly what I need it to be, because if it's not, when it comes out of the glaze firing, then I will paint over it. So right now that noise you're hearing is just me mixing up the satin patina glaze inside of its jar. So I can start adding that. And I just use manicure sticks for processes like this. That's what I use. Well, all right, let's bring this back into focus. So this patina is, I don't know how it's gonna look when it dries, but it's a darker glaze. So I'm gonna use this pointed brush because I sort of want to control where I'm going with it. Now remember, this looks totally different from what it's going to be when it comes out of the kiln. Well, at least judging by the picture on the outside of the jar. Now the picture on the outside jar is a bluish green, almost aquatic colored blue. Now that may look totally different by the time it goes into the fire. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Now with an area like this, what I'm thinking is going to happen is that, of course, because these brush strokes are so random, it's not just me coloring in a block of real estate on this clay. There are going to be areas where, even though, yes, I'm still going to be doing 3 coats, I'm not going to go over each area uniformly. So there will be areas that should be a lighter, much lighter blue, areas that are a darker blue. And it's going to be interesting to see how that works with the white and having different levels of coverage for this area of the beard with these 2 colors that are being used. Remove the light so you see, and it's soaking in very, very quickly. So I'm going to add some streaking along the hairline, the hair as well. So I should have put this on first, but I really did decide it in real time at the last minute to go ahead and paint the locks white as well. So I don't know what it's going to mean for that darker color, the satin patina that I put under it, but I'm going to go back over that last. So that's the first coat of the white, and that's all that I need. I'm going to go ahead, run my bath water now, come back, add a second coat, and then after I take my bath, a third coat, and after I let that dry, I'll go ahead and start streaking on the satin patina again. So that's this process. It's going to be interesting for all of us to see how this glaze comes out. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too, once it comes out of the fire. All right, so quick spin of the Wise One. And that's where we're leaving it off for right now, but I'll be back. Peace. All right, and this is the last part of the glazing session for the night. Is it? Yeah. So I've applied all the white and ended up muting out the satin patina that I used, but I'm just going to go over it. And I'm going to start with the beard because I'd only applied one coat. And it's virtually impossible, damn near, for me to see where the last applications went. So there's going to be some overlap that is going to create 3 coats, and then there's going to be plenty of areas where there's not an overlap, and it's only going to be like the equivalent of 1 coat or 2 coats. I can see it a little better when I put the light down. And it's just going to have different, gradients. That's what I believe. So we'll just see how this turns out. And again, the great thing is knowing that you're not married to anything, because there are solutions that enable you to paint right over this. So if it works out, lovely, less work for me. If it doesn't, a little bit more work for me, and I'll just do the painting. It's no problem. I'm thinking I should have stirred this up before I got started, so I'm going to go ahead and do it now. That may be part of the reason why it feels a little watery to me, or it just may be the consistency of this particular glaze. Either way, I'm going to go in, stir it up. That made me think of Beverly Hills Cop 1 or 2, I don't know, and that Patti LaBelle song. You remember it? Is it Stir It Up? I think it's Stir It Up. I might be messing up the words. You got to stir it up, got to shake it up now. You have to beg or borrow. I'm not gonna take it anymore. That one? Now I gotta go look it up to find out if the title or the lyrics mention stirring. But that's what's happening in my head when I'm doing stuff and I'm quiet. Songs are floating through, different life scenarios, different things that happened on TV. Random. So random. Oh my God. So I can still see, let me bring this closer to you guys. You can still see like the wet areas because they're really, really dark still. Once that dries, it becomes very, very translucent. It's chalky. You can barely distinguish it from anything else. That's why I like the glaze colors that tend to go on like a red or a dark brown, because at least you can easily see where you were. So I feel like I don't want to make this video just 5 minutes. So let me go ahead and make the choice about what I'm going to do for the face and start glazing the face. I don't have very many colors to choose from. I've got one called Leather. I've got one called Amber Quartz. I've got another called Tea Dust. Another called Rusted Iron. I think I'm going to do Tea Dust. This is one that I have used for, I think, about 2 sculptures, and it's halfway done. And I'm going to be using this for the companion piece. And I still have enough. I do need to order some more glaze, though. I've got these matte glazes, and I am going to probably end up buying some gloss glazes for some characters that I created. I'm not ready to reveal yet. I don't know when they're going to get revealed. Probably in 2000. I don't know. I might, I might reveal them for the October, but I'm not really sure just yet. If not, it'll be 2025 if I don't reveal them in October. So I'm gonna start at this midway point down his face. And the reason for that is just because once you've applied like 2 coats and this dries to its chalky texture, it can get a little difficult to tell where you began and where you ended. So if I just go right down the middle, I'll know that as I rotate this around and work, at least about where I started. You know, it doesn't matter if it overlaps a little, but I don't want to go crazy with it. Best to let the brush linger in tricky areas where you're concerned about coverage. I like to do the twirl method a lot, like up in the nostrils. I want to make sure that all of that white area is closed up. So I twirl the brush, and that helps to get a lot of the excess glaze off of the brush and onto your piece. I haven't gone down to the bottom because I need to use that little pointy tip brush. This one's too flat, and I don't want to go and overlap too deeply into areas of the beard that I'm trying not to touch. This area, I want to let it be a little bit mottled. M-O-T-T-L-E-D, that was the word I just used. It sounded like mottled. That's why I spelled it out. Yeah, I want it to be a little bit mottled so that it just goes down into the areas that I had painted with the white and the satin patina. And hopefully it will keep it from being just like this line of demarcation where I stopped painting, and it'll just be like, you know, a little bit of a fusion. Because it's not really a blend. starting from that same center point. I mostly went down, so they tell you to go in a different direction. So I'm going to be brushing it across. For the second coat and the last coat, I'll brush vertically again. All right, we're going to let that dry for a few minutes. Put the last coat on, and then I will be done with glazing for the wise one. And tomorrow I will go ahead and do the companion piece to this. So remember, it's very deceptive what you're looking at right now. This is actually white with a satin patina that is a bluish gray. I'm trying to find the bottle for it. Okay, bluish gray. That's not what I meant. A bluish green. That's the color. And then this color that I'm putting on currently, which is the darkest color, and I'm applying it last because it will tend to overpower, is called Tea Dust. That's the color it's going to be. Hopefully you can see that. And the way it breaks and curves, it's like a really deep chocolatey brown with highlights of a very, very light brown. That's the way I can describe it. All right, so remember I was telling you that it got sloppy, and then you just take a tool, and the darker colors you scrape away. And if you're wondering, well, am I scraping away the glaze, the white glaze that I applied? No, that's why you apply 3 coats, is because this really soaks into the layers of clay. It's not topical or epidermal, and I'm probably using that wrong. Epidermis? Epidermal layer. Epidermis. I don't know. Anyway, it's not topical. Let's stick with topical till I can get to Google. So it is being absorbed into the clay. So when you mess up and you have areas where you've put dark on light, you can just scrape it off, and pretty much as long as you don't see it, it won't be very prominent. Now that does not mean it's not going to show at all. It may still, because this is soaking in as well, but that scraping away will lessen, should at least lessen the effect. When this is glazed, we'll go back and take a look at those areas and see, you know, how much interference was run by the accidental application of the dark color. And that's just really incredible to me, is how chalky and how much different the color coming out of the bottle looks like. What it looks like as opposed to once the chemical reaction happens, when the heat hits it. And this is probably not fascinating for any of you because I'm sure it's the sort of the same situation with the formula and chemicals they put in to dye your hair, you know. That's why some people, they're trying to get like an auburn and they end up with, you know, a much lighter blonde or a darker brunette. Or some people try to go for red and damn near end up with bright pink. You know, those chemical reactions, I guess they're somewhat unpredictable if you don't know the chemistry behind it, you know. All right, and I am going to go back in with the tea dust and apply this final coat. One of the things I do want to check into, and maybe you ceramicists can go ahead and answer me if you know this already. I've been wanting to experiment with, after it's bisque fired, doing an underglaze. But I've got to research if when you underglaze, does it vitrify in the same way? Is it as strong? Because I would happily cut out a step. Well, not really cut out a step, but I would happily go about this a different way with regards to if it vitrifies and makes it as strong as it does with the actual glazing. I would like to go ahead and underglaze my bisqueware, my sculptures when they're at the point of bisqueware, and then fire them, know that they are very, very strong, the same as they would be with the glaze if that's the case. And then I would go in and just paint, always, so that I could be much more sure of the outcome. So I'm gonna check into that once I finish this and get into bed, because that'll be something good for me to research and take me into slumberland. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. But in the meantime, if you already know the answer to that, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. And again, it's not about the color. Could not possibly care less. I want to know if when it vitrifies, is underglaze as strong as glaze? Does it give you that type of coating and strength so that I would just be able to immediately underglaze a piece, put it back into the kiln for a glaze firing, and have it at the same strength it would be coming out of the kiln with glaze on it? That's what I want to know, because if that's the case, I would start doing that and just bringing every piece home and painting it so I can have a lot more control. Even though I've been having fun with the guessing game vibe of wonder how this glaze is going to turn out, you know, with certain things you just have a certain vision in mind and you don't want to take a chance with it. You want to get exactly what you see in your head. So I would love to have control over those times. All right, everybody, we're clocking out at 1 hour and 4 minutes. Let's call it 1 hour. I'm going to leave everything pretty much as is. Just going to tidy up the table just a little bit. And that's only because, truth be told, I'm probably going to come in and add one more coat tomorrow, probably at lunchtime or after I get off work. So it's no sense in cleaning up everything to within an inch of its life. But the sculpting tools and everything I can put away, because I told you this week is going to be all about glazing my sculptures so that I can get them into the kiln. I haven't done any research on the shrinkage that happens during a glaze firing, and if I still have to worry about my pieces surviving a glaze firing as well. I haven't had any problems. I've had several pieces come out of the glaze fire that survived the kiln, and there was no problem. So hopefully that's the same deal. And then once I get all of these back, I'll be able to start establishing my inventory for the sale. You know, what's going to be available. I can speak with my gallery about what's not because they want it, or, you know, if they don't want any of the pieces or some of the pieces, then it'll be available on the website. But again, at a higher price than will be available to you on the Facebook Live sale in October. So that's a good little ways off, but it's going to get here before any of us know it. If you want to be a part of that Facebook Live sale and you want me to email you an invitation, just hit me up, send me your email address, I'll add it to the list, and sometime in late September, that's when you'll hear from me, and I'll give you the date and all of the details, and hopefully you've been, you know, having a piece or pieces that you've been eyeing, and this is a chance to get it at a really fantastic price. So send me those email addresses. And as always, please definitely go subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Art, A-R-T, by B-Y, Terry, T-E-R-R-I, 5464. That's the YouTube channel. Now, you'll probably find me just by looking up Art by Terry, but I have a tendency to say the whole YouTube address. So, yeah, the numbers have been, you know, growing really, really slow. I think I'm at like 105 now, you know, which is pathetic in the internet world, but I'm thankful for all of my subscribers. I remember when I was at like, you know, 50 begging to get to 100. So, you know, we're going to keep it growing. We're going to keep it moving with your support. I thank you. And your girl is sleepy. Y'all going to bed. Peace.